I pressed my back against the hallway wall, my heart hammering so hard I thought they might hear it through the door. My son's voice drifted through the crack. But what if she fights it? And then her voice, that sweet, syrupy voice I'd been fooled by for 8 months. She won't even know what's happening until it's too late. Trust me, Michael. After the wedding, we file the paperwork, get a doctor to testify she's losing it, and boom. We have control of everything. The house, the accounts, all of it. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. I just stood there in my own home listening to them plan to steal my life. My name is Donna Watson, and I'm 72 years old. Before I tell you what happened next, I want to know, where are you watching this from? Drop your location in the comments. I always love hearing from you all. Now let me tell you about the day I discovered that the biggest threat to my independence wasn't my age. It was my own son. I'd lived in my house in Richmond, Virginia for 43 years. My husband Thomas and I bought it when Michael was just 2 years old back in 1982. We raised our son there, celebrated every birthday and holiday, and when Thomas passed away from cancer 6 years ago, I made a promise to myself. I would stay independent, stay sharp, and stay in control of my own life for as long as I possibly could. And I had. I managed my finances meticulously. I volunteered at the library twice a week. I drove myself everywhere. My vision was perfect. My reflexes were fine, and I'd never even had a parking ticket. I had a book club, a garden I was proud of, and a small but comfortable nest egg from Thomas's life insurance and our combined retirement savings. About $480,000 in investments and savings, plus the house, which was worth another $300,000. Not a fortune by some standards, but it was mine, and it represented a lifetime of careful planning. Michael had always been a good son. A bit directionless, perhaps. He'd bounced between jobs, sales positions mostly, never quite making it stick. He was 45 now, divorced 3 years ago, and living in the apartment across town. We had dinner together every Sunday, and I'd helped him out financially here and there when he was struggling. Nothing major. A few thousand to help with his divorce attorney. Some money when he was between jobs. What mother wouldn't help her son? Then he met Cassandra. He brought her to Sunday dinner last October, and I wanted so badly to like her. She was 38, beautiful in a polished way, with expertly highlighted blonde hair and clothes that looked expensive. She worked in real estate consulting, whatever that meant. From the first moment, she was attentive to me. Almost too attentive. She'd bring me small gifts, compliment my cooking, ask about my health with what seemed like genuine concern. "Donna, you're amazing for your age," she'd say, and I'd feel a little twist in my stomach at the phrasing. For your age. As if being 72 meant I should be drooling in a corner somewhere. Michael seemed happier than he'd been in years. He'd proposed after just 6 months, and while I thought it was rushed, I kept my concerns to myself. What right did I have to interfere? I'd raised him to make his own decisions, and he was clearly in love. The wedding was planned for June, just 3 months away from that March afternoon when my entire world shifted. I remember the day perfectly. It was a Tuesday. I'd been at the library all morning, sorting donations for the spring book sale. I came home around 2 in the afternoon, and Michael's car was in my driveway next to Cassandra's white BMW. I was pleased. They were supposed to come for dinner that evening, but an early visit was always welcome. I came in through the front door, calling out a hello. No answer. I set down my purse and heard voices from my study, the room that had been Thomas's office and was now where I managed all my paperwork and finances. The door was mostly closed, just open a crack. I was about to push it open when I heard Cassandra's voice, low and intense. "Michael, we've been over this. She's got nearly $800,000 in total assets. The longer we wait, the more chance she has to do something stupid with it." I froze. "I know, but she's sharp, Cass. She's not going to just hand over power of attorney. She won't have a choice." Cassandra's voice was cold, businesslike. Nothing like the warm, caring tone she used with me. "We wait until after the wedding. That's important. It looks better, shows you're stable, settled. Then we start the process. We find a doctor who'll testify that she's showing signs of cognitive decline. There are doctors who'll do it if you pay them enough. A few missed appointments, some confusion about medications. It's not hard to document. My hand went to my mouth. I thought I might be sick. But Mom doesn't take any medications, and she's never confused. Doesn't matter, Cassandra said dismissively. We create the narrative. You start expressing concern to people, the neighbors, her friends at the library. Mom seems to be forgetting things lately. I'm worried about her driving. Plant the seeds. Then when we file for guardianship and power of attorney, everyone will already believe something's wrong with her. Guardianship? Michael's voice cracked slightly. That seems extreme. It's necessary if we want full control. With guardianship, we make all her decisions, where she lives, how her money is spent, everything. We can sell this house, liquidate her investments, and finally have the capital to start living the way we should be living. You deserve this, baby. After everything you've been through, after your father left everything to her instead of setting up a trust for you, this is just correcting an injustice. I had to grip the wall to stay standing. Thomas had left everything to me because we'd planned it that way, together. Michael was named in my will. He'd inherit everything when I died. But that wasn't enough for them. They wanted it now. What if she fights it? Michael asked, and my heart broke a little at the weakness in his voice. Where was the son I'd raised? Where was his moral compass? She won't even know what's happening until it's too late. Trust me, Michael. After the wedding, we file the paperwork, get a doctor to testify she's losing it, and boom. We have control of everything. The house, the accounts, all of it. By the time she understands what's happening, we'll already have legal authority. And honestly, at her age, maybe it's for the best anyway. How much longer can she really manage on her own? I don't know, Cass. This feels wrong. What feels wrong is watching her sit on all that money while we're struggling. What feels wrong is that house going to waste when we could sell it and invest in properties that actually generate income. You said yourself she doesn't need that much space. We'll find her a nice assisted living place. They have beautiful facilities now. She'll probably be happier with people her own age. She loves this house. She'll get over it. And if she doesn't, well, that's what the guardianship is for. Once we have it, what she wants doesn't legally matter anymore. The casual cruelty of it sucked the air from my lungs. I heard papers rustling. I've already researched the process, Cassandra continued. We file in circuit court. It takes about 60 to 90 days. We'll need medical evidence, testimony about her declining capacity, proof that she can't manage her affairs. I've got a lawyer friend who specializes in this. He'll handle everything. The filing fee is only $25. Can you believe that? $25 to get control of $800,000. When do we start? Right after the wedding. June 15th. We'll give it a week or two, then begin expressing concerns. By August, we file. By October, we're in control. By Christmas, we're living in a house we actually own, not one we're waiting to inherit. I don't know how long I stood there after they finished talking. I heard them leave the study, heard them in the kitchen, heard Cassandra's fake cheerful voice calling out, "Donna, are you home?" I couldn't answer. I couldn't face them. I slipped into the downstairs bathroom and locked the door, texting Michael that I was feeling unwell and would have to cancel dinner. He texted back immediately, "Feel better, Mom. Love you." Love you? The words felt like a slap. I sat on the edge of the bathtub and shook. Not from fear, from rage. Pure, white-hot rage. I'd worked my entire life. I'd been a teacher for 35 years, saving every penny I could. Thomas and I had sacrificed vacations and luxuries to build our nest egg. I'd nursed him through cancer, watching him die by inches. I'd earned every cent of what I had, and now my own son was planning to steal it from me by declaring me incompetent. I thought about all the times I'd helped Michael, the money for his divorce, the rent I'd covered when he was between jobs, the car I'd co-signed for when his credit was bad. I'd never asked for payback, never held it over his head. And this was how he repaid me, by plotting with his gold-digging fiancé to have me declared mentally unfit so they could seize my assets and stuff me in a nursing home. But as the shock faded, something else took its place. Cold, calculated determination. They thought I was a helpless old woman. They thought I wouldn't understand what was happening until it was too late. They were wrong on both counts. I waited in that bathroom until I heard them leave. Then I went to my study and looked at what they'd been examining. They'd gone through my financial records, the statements I kept in my desk drawer. They knew exactly what I had and where it was. They'd planned this carefully. Well, I could plan too. I picked up my phone and called my attorney, Patricia Hendricks. I'd used Patricia for estate planning when Thomas died, and I trusted her completely. She was smart, no nonsense, and she answered on the second ring. "Patricia, I need to see you tomorrow morning. First thing, it's urgent." "Donna, is everything all right?" "No," I said, my voice steady despite the pounding of my heart. "It's really not, but it's going to be." Patricia's office was in a renovated Victorian downtown. I sat across from her at 9 the next morning and told her everything. I didn't cry, didn't break down. I just laid out the facts as clearly as I could. When I finished, her face was flushed with anger. "Those absolute vultures," she said, which was as close to cursing as I'd ever heard from Patricia. "All right, let's talk about what we're going to do." "Can they actually succeed with this?" I asked. "If they file for guardianship?" "That's what we're going to make sure doesn't happen," Patricia said firmly. She pulled out a legal pad and started writing. "First, you need to understand how guardianship and conservatorship work in Virginia. They'd file a petition in circuit court claiming you're incapacitated and unable to manage your affairs. There would be a hearing. The court would likely appoint an independent guardian ad litem to evaluate you. If the court finds clear and convincing evidence that you're incapacitated, they could grant guardianship, giving someone else authority over your personal and financial decisions." My stomach churned. "But I'm not incapacitated." "I know that. You know that. But the system can be manipulated, especially when there's money involved. Courts see a lot of elderly people who genuinely need protection, so sometimes they err on the side of caution. If Michael and this Cassandra person get a doctor to testify that you're declining, if they present a pattern of alleged confusion and forgetfulness, even if it's completely fabricated, it could work. So what do I do?" Patricia smiled, and it wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of someone preparing for battle. "We create an impenetrable defense, and then we go on offense." Over the next 2 hours, Patricia laid out a strategy that was both simple and brilliant. First, I would undergo a complete cognitive evaluation. "We need to establish a clear baseline of your mental capacity right now," Patricia explained. "I'm going to refer you to Dr. Raymond Chen. He's a neuropsychologist who specializes in cognitive assessments, and he's testified in court dozens of times. He'll do a full evaluation, memory tests, executive function, decision-making capacity, everything. When you pass with flying colors, which you will, we'll have that documentation on record with a date stamp showing it was done before any guardianship petition was filed. Second, we would restructure my assets to make them harder to access. We'll set up an irrevocable trust," Patricia said. "You'll transfer the bulk of your liquid assets into it, with yourself as the primary beneficiary during your lifetime. Michael is currently in your will, correct?" I nodded. "We'll keep him as the beneficiary of the trust after your death. But while you're alive, you maintain control through the trust structure. The important thing is that if someone gets guardianship over you, they can't touch the trust assets. Those are protected. Third, I would create multiple layers of documentation proving my competency. Patricia had me write a detailed letter explaining my current situation, my financial management, my daily activities, and my cognitive state. I would have it notarized with that day's date. I would also get letters from my doctor, my dentist, my friends at the library, anyone who could attest to my mental clarity. Fourth, and most importantly, we would create an advanced medical directive and a durable power of attorney, but not naming Michael. "Who do you trust absolutely?" Patricia asked. I thought immediately of my friend Helen Morrison. We'd taught together for 20 years, and she'd been my rock when Thomas died. She was 74, sharp as a tack, and had recently retired after a second career in nursing. "Helen," I said, "call her today. Explain the situation. If she's willing, we'll name her as your healthcare proxy and give her durable power of attorney. That means if you ever do become incapacitated, and I mean actually incapacitated, not fake manufactured incapacitated, Helen makes the decisions, not Michael. Once you've properly executed a power of attorney naming someone else, it's much harder for someone to challenge it later. By the time I left Patricia's office, I had a plan. Over the next 3 weeks, I executed every step of it with the precision of a military operation. Dr. Chen evaluated me over 2 long sessions. He tested my memory, my problem-solving skills, my ability to understand and manage financial information, everything. When he finished, he smiled and said, "Mrs. Watson, I've evaluated hundreds of people. You scored in the superior range for your age group in every category. Your cognitive function is excellent. Anyone who claims otherwise is either misinformed or lying." I had his written report signed and notarized within 3 days. I met with Helen and explained everything. She was horrified by Michael's betrayal and agreed immediately to serve as my power of attorney and healthcare proxy. We signed the paperwork in Patricia's office with 2 witnesses and a notary. It was legally airtight. I reorganized my finances, moving $400,000 into an irrevocable trust with Helen as the trustee and myself as the primary beneficiary. I kept about $80,000 in accessible accounts for my regular expenses, along with the house. Even if someone did get guardianship over me, which I was determined to prevent, they wouldn't be able to touch the trust. I got letters from Dr. Marshall, my physician of 15 years, attesting to my good health and mental clarity. I got a letter from Sarah Chen, the head librarian, talking about my organizational skills and reliability. I documented everything, every bill I paid, every decision I made, every activity I participated in. I created a paper trail that screamed competence, and I waited. Michael called me several times during those 3 weeks, cheerful and chatty, asking how I was feeling, talking about wedding plans. Each time I kept my voice steady and warm, even though every word felt like acid on my tongue. I played the role of the loving, slightly scattered elderly mother. I mentioned forgetting where I'd put my reading glasses once. They were on top of my head, a normal human mistake, not evidence of dementia. I asked Michael to help me with something on my computer that I actually knew perfectly well how to do myself. I planted little seeds that they could use later, letting them think their plan was working. The wedding was beautiful. I won't lie about that. It was at a historic estate outside Richmond with 200 guests and everything perfectly coordinated in shades of cream and gold. Cassandra looked stunning. Michael looked happy. And I sat in the front row, smiling and taking pictures, knowing exactly what they were planning. At the reception, Cassandra came over and hugged me. "I'm so glad you're officially my family now, Donna," she said, her voice dripping with false warmth. "Me too, dear," I said and raised my champagne glass. "To family." 3 months later, in early September, it happened. Michael called me on a Wednesday morning. "Mom, can Cassandra and I come over this afternoon? There's something we need to discuss with you." "Of course, sweetheart," I said. "I'll make coffee." They arrived at 2 o'clock. I answered the door with a smile, and we sat in my living room, the room where I'd raised Michael, where Thomas and I had celebrated Christmas mornings, where generations of memories lived in every corner. They were planning to sell it all. Cassandra set her designer bag on the coffee table and pulled out a folder. Michael looked uncomfortable, not quite meeting my eyes. "Donna," Cassandra began, her voice taking on a tone of practiced concern, "we wanted to talk to you about some things we've noticed lately. We're worried about you." "Worried?" I tilted my head, playing confused. "What do you mean?" "Well, you've been forgetting things. Michael said you couldn't figure out how to use your computer a few weeks ago. You've mentioned misplacing items. And we're concerned that managing this big house and your finances is becoming overwhelming for you." "I see," I said slowly. Michael finally spoke up, his voice strained. "We just want to help, Mom. We think it might be time to consider some changes. Maybe moving somewhere smaller, somewhere with support services, and we'd like to help you with your finances. Make sure everything's being managed properly." For my own good, I said. It wasn't a question. Exactly, Cassandra said, warming to her script. For your own good. Now, we've taken the liberty of consulting with an attorney, and we think the best thing would be for Michael to become your guardian and conservator. It's just a legal formality, really. It means he can help make decisions with you, manage your accounts, handle the sale of the house. The sale of the house? Well, yes. This place is too much for you, Donna. And honestly, the equity would be better used elsewhere. Michael and I have found some excellent assisted living facilities. The money from selling this house would cover your care and the rest? I interrupted. What happens to the rest of my money, Cassandra? She blinked, momentarily thrown off script. Well, it would be managed by Michael as your guardian. He'd make sure it's being used appropriately for your care. I see. And when exactly were you planning to file for this guardianship? Cassandra glanced at Michael, then back at me. Actually, we've already filed the petition. The court date is next month. We didn't want to worry you with the details, but you thought you'd just take away my rights without telling me first. Mom, it's not like that, Michael said, but his voice lacked conviction. I stood up and walked to my desk. I pulled out a thick folder I'd prepared for exactly this moment. Let me tell you what it is like, Michael. I turned to face them, and I let the mask drop. No more confused elderly mother, just me. Donna Watson, 72. Years old, sharp as the day I graduated from college, and absolutely done with their games. It's like this, I said, my voice cold and clear. 3 months ago, I came home to find you both in my study. You didn't know I was here. I stood in the hallway and listened to you plot to have me declared incompetent so you could steal my life savings and put me in a nursing home. The color drained from both their faces. I heard every word, Cassandra. Your plan to find a doctor who would lie about my cognitive state. Your strategy to plant seeds of doubt with my friends and neighbors. Your timeline. File after the wedding. Have control by October. $25 filing fee to seize $800,000. You were very thorough. Mom, Michael started, but I held up my hand. I'm not finished. You see, I spent the last 3 months being thorough, too. I had a complete neuropsychological evaluation by Dr. Raymond Chen, one of the most respected experts in Virginia. I scored in the superior range for my age in every single category. I have his written report, signed and dated before you filed your petition. I pulled out the first document and set it on the coffee table. I created an irrevocable trust and moved the majority of my assets into it. Even if you somehow managed to get guardianship over me, which you won't, you wouldn't be able to touch that money. It's protected, and I remain the primary beneficiary. I pulled out the trust documents and added them to the pile. I executed a durable power of attorney and healthcare directive naming my friend Helen Morrison as my proxy. She's a retired nurse with 40 years of experience. The documents were properly witnessed and notarized. That means if I ever actually need someone to make decisions for me, not your manufactured version of need, but actual incapacity. Helen is the one who has legal authority, not you, Michael. The power of attorney documents joined the pile. I have letters from my physician, my dentist, the head librarian at the Richmond Public Library, and several friends, all attesting to my excellent cognitive function and ability to manage my own affairs. All dated within the last 3 months, all available to present in court. More documents on the pile. And finally, I said, pulling out a small recording device, I have this. It's a recording of your conversation from that day in March, the day you planned this entire scheme. It's time-stamped and verified. My attorney has a copy. Helen has a copy. And I'll be presenting it to the judge at next month's hearing. That was a lie. I hadn't actually recorded them, and even if I had, Virginia's two-party consent law would make such a recording inadmissible in court. But they didn't know that, and the bluff landed perfectly. Cassandra's face went from white to green. In addition to defending against your guardianship petition, I continued, I'll be filing a complaint with the Virginia State Bar against your attorney friend for ethical violations. Knowingly filing a false guardianship petition is grounds for disbarment, and I'll be pursuing criminal charges for attempted fraud and exploitation of an elderly person. The penalties for that in Virginia can include up to 20 years in prison. That part wasn't a bluff. Patricia had walked me through every legal avenue available. "Mom, please," Michael said, and now he was crying. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I didn't want to do it." Cassandra said, "Don't you dare blame this on her," I snapped. "You're a 45-year-old man, Michael. You made a choice. You chose money over your mother. You chose to betray me in the worst possible way. Do you understand what you were trying to do? You were going to take away my autonomy, my rights, my dignity. You were going to lock me away and steal everything I worked for my entire life. That's not just wrong, it's evil." Cassandra grabbed her bag. "We're leaving, and you'll be hearing from our attorney about this slander." "It's not slander if it's true," I said calmly. "And yes, please do have your attorney contact mine. Her name is Patricia Hendricks. I'm sure she'd love to hear how you plan to commit fraud." Cassandra stormed out. Michael stood there, tears streaming down his face. "Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Get out of my house," I said. "You're no longer in my will, obviously. Patricia is drawing up new documents today. Every penny I have will go to charity when I die. You'll get nothing." "I don't care about the money anymore," he sobbed. You care about the money," I said. "That's all you've cared about. Now get out." He left. I stood there in my living room, surrounded by the documents that proved my competence and protected my rights, and I felt no satisfaction, just a deep, aching sadness for the son I'd lost and a grim determination to see this through. The court hearing was on October 10th. Patricia and I arrived with 3 banker's boxes full of documentation. Michael and Cassandra came with their attorney, a weaselly man named Robert Morrison, who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. The judge was a woman in her early 60s named Judge Catherine Brennan. She reviewed the petition, then looked at Michael with obvious skepticism. "Mr. Watson, your petition states that your mother is unable to manage her affairs due to cognitive decline. However, I have before me a neuropsychological evaluation completed by Dr. Raymond Chen, indicating that Mrs. Watson's cognitive function is well above average for her age. How do you respond to that?" Robert Morrison stood. "Your Honor, that evaluation was done after we filed the petition. The respondent clearly knew we were concerned about her capacity and arranged the evaluation to—" "Actually," Patricia interrupted. Smoothly, the evaluation was completed 3 weeks before the petition was filed. The date is clearly marked on the report. Judge Brennan examined the document. "So it is. Mr. Morrison, do you have any medical evidence to support your client's claims?" "We have testimony from Mr. Watson about incidents of forgetfulness and confusion. Testimony from the person seeking guardianship. Any medical professionals? Any cognitive evaluations? Any documented diagnosis of dementia or cognitive impairment?" Morrison shuffled his papers. "We were planning to have her evaluated, but you filed the petition first. Interesting timing." Judge Brennan turned to me. "Mrs. Watson, are you able to explain your financial situation to me?" I stood. "Yes, Your Honor. I have approximately $80,000 in liquid assets across 3 accounts at Wells Fargo and Charles Schwab. I have an additional $400,000 in an irrevocable trust established in April of this year, with myself as the primary beneficiary and my friend Helen Morrison as trustee. I own my home outright, valued at approximately $300,000. I have no debt. My monthly expenses average about $3,200, which is easily covered by my pension and Social Security income of approximately $4,800 per month. I manage all of my own finances, pay my bills on time, and have never missed a payment or overdrafted an account." I rattled off every number from memory, precisely and confidently. Judge Brennan raised her eyebrows, impressed. "And you set up this trust yourself?" "With the help of my attorney, Ms. Hendricks, yes. I made the decision to protect my assets after I learned that my son and his wife were planning to seek guardianship not out of concern for my welfare, but in order to gain control of my financial resources." "That's a serious allegation." I can prove it, Your Honor. Patricia handed up copies of the documents I'd prepared, including detailed notes about the conversation I'd overheard. Mrs. Watson overheard her son and daughter-in-law discussing their plan to have her declared incompetent so they could access her money. She took immediate and appropriate action to protect herself. Judge Brennan read through the documents, her expression growing colder by the minute. She looked at Michael. "Mr. Watson, is it true that you and your wife discussed contesting your mother's mental capacity in order to gain control of her assets?" Michael, to his credit, didn't lie. "Yes, Your Honor, but I wasn't thinking clearly. I was wrong. I'm so sorry." "Sorry doesn't cut it in my courtroom, Mr. Watson. Do you understand that filing a false guardianship petition is a serious matter? That it wastes court resources and, more importantly, attempts to strip a competent person of their fundamental rights?" "Yes, Your Honor." Judge Brennan closed the file with a sharp snap. "The petition for guardianship is denied. Furthermore, I am referring this matter to the Virginia State Bar for investigation into Mr. Morrison's conduct in filing this petition without adequate medical evidence. Mrs. Watson, you are clearly more than capable of managing your own affairs, and I commend you for taking such thorough steps to protect yourself. This case is dismissed." She banged her gavel, and it was over. Outside the courtroom, Patricia hugged me. "You did it, Donna. You won." I had won, but it didn't feel the way I'd imagined it would. I changed my will the next day. Everything goes to charity now: the Richmond Public Library, the Alzheimer's Association, and a scholarship fund at Virginia Commonwealth University for students from low-income families. Michael will get nothing. He's tried to reach out several times. Emails, phone calls, letters of apology. I don't respond. Some betrayals are too deep to forgive, and this was one of them. He chose to see me as an obstacle to wealth rather than as a human being. He chose to try to rob me of my dignity, my autonomy, and my rights. There's no coming back from that. Cassandra filed for divorce 6 months after the hearing. Apparently, without access to my money, Michael wasn't quite as attractive a prospect. Last I heard, he moved to North Carolina for a job. I hope he's learned something from this experience, but that's no longer my concern. I'm still in my house. I still volunteer at the library twice a week. Helen and I have dinner every Wednesday, and she remains my power of attorney just in case I ever actually need her to step in. But for now, at 72, I'm managing just fine. If there's anything I want you to take away from this, it's this. Don't ever let anyone make you feel like your age means you're incompetent. Stay sharp, stay informed, and protect yourself. If something feels wrong, trust your instincts. And if someone tries to take away your rights, fight back with everything you've got.